Well, it's a little different today. We have a guest co-host, Edward. Why don't you just tell us who you are?
My name is Edward Kirk, and I'm a friend of Clark's. I've known him for about 25 years, close to that. We met actually doing extra work for the opera
That's
together
right.
in
Yeah.
actually 1995. So somebody who's good at math can figure it out. That's when we met. We've been good, really, really good friends since then.
And you live
In Toronto,
right downtown.
right downtown, next door to the St. Lawrence Market.
Yeah.
I've been here for 26 years. I do like it. Unfortunately, my space is too small, although I had recently guests here from New York City. I have guests here from New York City, and they thought this was a luxury-sized apartment compared to what, I don't know what Joe and what's-his-face are renting, but these guys have a really small place in Chelsea, I believe.
And just so you know, you need to be about where you are there for the audio to pick up properly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that about the distance you are would be perfect. So yes, we're recording in Ed's condo. Simon is not available today. So you've listened to our show. You know
I
the
have,
show.
yes.
What do you like about our show?
Well, I think it's interesting that you're taking the time to put things, this is kind of almost a permanent documentary in a different way than film or video or anything like that would be. I think it's interesting, and podcasts are so popular right now. The problem is this content. Like, people have to be interested.
Well, exactly. And, there's some people that think listening to two guys yammer on about different topics is boring.
But you have to have me.
Oh, yes. Well, that's why we have you for this
Yes.
one. So the usual way we do this is we grab a few topics and we just talk about them.
Yes.
And so I selected a couple here, and feel free to add any that you want to bring up. But the first one I wanted to talk about was yesterday when I was walking down the street. I had this weird feeling of, I'm really glad I'm not famous. It was like a reverse of the usual. What would it be like to be famous, having all these people like coming up to you? What it was is I saw someone with a camera, like a cell phone. It looked like they were taking a picture of me when I was walking down the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And I thought, these guys who are like celebrities or an athlete or whatever are constantly dealing with people coming up and just probably taking photos without permission. They're always getting stared at. And I had this weird feeling that I'm glad I'm not famous.
Yeah, I would feel the same. I don't have any need. I mean, I work part-time as an actor, and that's not really any kind of fame or anything like that. That gives me enough recognition that people see me or know what I'm all about. But in terms of being like a big celebrity, a political or actor, Hollywood actor, no thanks. Yeah, no, it's grueling, but that's the price of that.
I know.
Although there are certain cities where celebrities are famously left alone, like New York.
Yeah, well, there's so many people, and people are sort of almost numb to it, I think. The people that bother celebrities in New York are probably like
Me?
Tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yourself.
Yeah.
Which actually brings up a topic that I was
Stalker thing?
Yeah, so I think with the advent of social media over the last 10, 15 years, guys like yourself are able to access people that you wouldn't have been able to access before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a few people, and you don't need to name names, but just...
No, I don't mind.
There are some people that you follow and connect with, and it's purely because of social media that you're able to get access to these people.
Yes, well, I mean, bizarrely enough, not that he's really, really famous, but, I have connected with some people. I'm a fan of ballet, and I do talk to a lot of dancers, although generally dancers are not very, very social with other people other than other dancers. But I like, for example, my favorite story is how social media changed something. Well, actually, it's not really social media. Or is it? Yeah. Was a couple of years ago, I'm a real big fan of actually this production that runs in San Francisco called Beach Blanket Babylon. And I went to the show you've been, actually. I've seen it probably about 20 times.
Okay, now you're an amateur at this, and we're going to work on it, but you have to make sure you're speaking into the mic.
We got it.
Not that close, but
Okay.
just
Got
every
it.
time you turn your head, you're out of the...
Okay, got it. So, anyways,
Beach Blanket Babylon.
which is closing, but unfortunately after, I think, almost 50 years at the end of this year. Anyways, my friend John, who lives in San Francisco, at one point basically said to me, I was sitting reading some San Francisco magazine, and I had heard of Beach Blanket Babylon, And I always thought it was kind of like Second City or something like that. Like it was not something I was interested in. And I just said, I keep seeing ads for this. And John was just beside himself with the fact that I had not seen that show and been coming to San Francisco since 1996. So he actually bought us tickets that evening. And I mean, I was so shocked with the quality and I enjoyed it so much. I was unable to speak. For me, that is rare. And I particularly like one guy in the show, so I ended up sending him an email on Facebook and just saying I really enjoyed you and and he had said to me, oh, well, you know what? Why don't you guys come? We're on the Pride, because they have a float in the Pride Parade in San Francisco. The show does. And we missed it because the Pride Parade is at 10:30 in the morning, which is bizarre because I don't think any gay person in the world is up at 10:30 in the morning. But whatever. So we went, and we didn't actually end up seeing them. But then all of a sudden, this little skinny guy walks up to me with no shirt on and a backpack, and he goes, and there you have to understand, there are over 2 million people in San Francisco on Pride, and that's addition to who lives there. Okay? So it's hopping. It's the equivalent of the population of Toronto in San Francisco on Pride. All of a sudden, this little skinny guy with no shirt on walks up to me and goes, Ed. I'm like, yes. And he goes, I'm Kirk from the show. And like, what are the chances, finding me in 2 million people? Anyways, we've been best buddies. I get to see him maybe once a year. He's been here.
Yeah.
So that's my brush with celebrities, I guess. I don't know.
Would anyone...
My partner calls me a stalker, which is fine.
I was going to ask you, would anyone consider you to be almost like a little over the top?
Well, fuck no. Well, no. Like, I mean, I'm a fan. Like, I love ballet, and I go to the National Ballet, and and I do like get autographs and photos and stuff like that. So
you do kind of go a little over the top, I think.
Yeah, it could be.
And maybe embarrass the people that you're with.
Not John. Like John, there was one time we were waiting for one particular singer, and she walked out of the stage door, and she walked right over to us, and she goes, I know you're waiting for me. And I'm like going, yeah, how'd you know that? She goes, you just looked like you were waiting for me. Anyways.
Oh, God.
And I'm like,
she knows that look.
Yeah, she knows that.
This is something that she's seen before.
I would imagine, yeah.
That look, it's like a dog.
Well,
when you know it's
opera
going
fans
to bite you.
In Europe, they're crazy. But then again, like, look at what happened. What would happen in Japan with baseball players? Would there be like a public uproar if they were in public?
You mean like would it cause a lot of attention?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I think people can kind of exist in Japan, probably like you were saying earlier about how some cities people get left alone. I would suspect that, especially if you were not, like if you were like a Japanese celebrity, I really shouldn't say, I really don't have any expertise on this, but I think they're just a lot more subtle about their celebrity.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a J-pop. Because I don't speak Japanese and I'm not watching Japanese television ever, I don't know about a lot of things like that.
That drag queen that sells everything, like toothpaste, and what's her name, Moo Moo or something? And I took a picture of her, and a Japanese friend said, oh, that's like the most famous drag queen in all of Japan. Like, she advertises everything from toothpaste to like dildos to like you name it. So, and she's on everything. Have you not seen her?
Is that the one with the cropped hair, or
no? It looks like a woman, sort of, but like it's definitely a man.
Okay, we'll have to find the link to this and put it in the show notes.
And I forget her name. She's huge. She's like famous in Japan.
You should find out what her name is.
Moo Moo or something.
Moo Moo. So anyway, I'm glad I'm not famous, because I just think that, I think it was Michael Jordan said he would give all his money back if it meant he could be not famous anymore, because he can't go anywhere without being harassed or having people, staring at him. And I think there's something to be said in the reverse of being famous, which is just being like us,
correct,
regular people.
But I do have a comment on the famous thing, though. Like, if someone were to say that to me directly, like, oh, boo-hoo, like, I would just say, boo-hoo, you're famous.
Why?
I'll take the money.
Yeah.
And the harassment.
Fears as a child, another topic I wanted to talk about. Things that you grew up being afraid of. Any that come to mind?
Yes.
Like what?
My parents were older, so I was always worried they were going to drop dead on me when I was really young. TV shows that my parents allowed me to watch.
Hold on. Did you sense they were a lot older?
Oh, God, yeah.
Than like your friends' parents?
Oh, yeah.
And
my mother was 45 when she had me, for crying out loud.
So
she was nuts.
When did you first pick up this vibe? How old would you have been?
A toddler.
a toddler, and you kind of looked around at your friends'
Oh,
friends and saw
yeah.
your parents and said, "Whoa, they kind of more look like my grandparents."
Yeah,
or-
totally.
yeah. So I guess at 10 years old, mom would have been 55.
Yeah, but my mom looked young, but still, like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was obvious.
So you were afraid they were going to die kind of before everyone else's parents.
Correct.
Yeah. I could see that being a definite fear. For me, one of my fears was because my father smoked. I was always so worried that, because in school we were getting educated on, the what smoking can do, and imagine this: you spend all of this time in a class being taught basically what your father is doing will kill him, and it's almost this like strange guilt, or not guilt, but this, it's like you're there, you can't control what your parents are doing, and obviously they're trying to teach the kids not to take up smoking or drugs or whatever. But then when you see your father doing exactly what they've been talking about is going to eventually kill them, it's very alarming, or it provided a lot of anxiety for me.
Yeah, I mean, neither of my parents smoked. My father basically just drank a little tiny bit. My mother doesn't. My mother never drank. So I didn't have that one. But I did definitely have concerns about my parents, even though I had a large family.
Yeah.
Well, not a large, like an extended family. The other thing was, like I said, my parents were pretty open with the TV. And in the 70s, they started putting some really scary shit on TV, like Roots and Holocaust and all those miniseries that I saw when I was probably like 10, maybe, or maybe even younger. And the Omega Man. I could not get over that movie for weeks. I would not sleep in my own bedroom.
Mega Man?
The Omega Man.
Oh, the Omega Man.
With Charlton Heston. It's. I watched it recently. It still packs a punch.
Omega Man, it was scary. Why? Because it was post-apocalyptic?
Oh, God. It was just Charlton Heston driving around deserted Los Angeles with a shotgun, and all of the people who had survived the apocalypse were these like zombies.
Yeah.
But it was really, it was not done with like, it was, and they tried to keep getting at him, right? And then he finds another survivor, a woman, and she hasn't been, like, it's a blood thing. It's
Omega Man.
It's a blood thing that they get something in their blood, and they become, like, their eyes go all funny, and then she gets it, and then he ends up killing himself, or I forget what he does, just before a bunch of hippies show up with an antidote. It's really a weird film, and it's got weird music too.
We should play. I'll put some music on.
Yeah, it's
breaking copyright.
Yeah, it's
but I'll
very
get some
strange
music.
film. Yeah, that scared the shit out of me. Like absolute, I was terrified.
So kind of on that same tone is my fear was the Cold War, and that Russia was going to send nuclear missiles over to us.
That wasn't really my issue at the. I remember being more worried about that right now. Someone planting something in the Sea of Japan from that weirdo up in Korea. Like, I mean, that's. I'd be. Didn't he just do another one?
You know what? I haven't heard.
Well,
there's been a little bit more saber rattling, but I don't think he's actually shot anything out there recently.
Oh fuck! Like, I don't get that. But anyways,
I know it's scary.
And even China's got problems, right?
Just going back to the fear thing for a sec. So yeah, the Cold War, and the mysteriousness, and I think the lack of control. Not that you would have control as a parent necessarily, but I think when you're a kid you have zero control, right? So you're totally at the mercy of your parents protecting you. You're totally at the mercy of someone not doing something crazy like shooting a nuclear missile. And I think the only reassurance I really got from my parents was neither side wants a war, because as soon as one sends a missile, the other sends a missile. But I still felt that was kind of cold comfort.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch The Day After in 1983?
Yeah, that's
I watched it once in a blue moon over again, and to see, like, has it aged, and it really hasn't.
It's very creepy.
Well, it's well done.
That was early 80s?
No, 83. And then the next year, 84, the British version, which is called Threads. came out. Now that's much, much more sinister. Yeah, I didn't like that one very much.
The day after, I found these movies, although that was made in the 80s, a lot of movies that were made in the 70s and I'll call it early 80s definitely had this edge to them of like scariness that you can't recreate, it seems.
Like Where Have All the People Gone? Have you seen that?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that, or movies where that is the case, where it is like post-apocalyptic.
Correct.
That it's creepy as hell.
It is. Like,
but the 70s had this edge to it that they could make it shine in the movie somehow. Like loneliness, darkness, gloom.
Well, that's another one that's pretty creepy. Everyone was disintegrating, and then a lot of people who were survivors were in caves. So that's a good one. I'm trying to think of one other one that I really enjoyed. But yeah, creepy movies. Oh, Drowning.
Drowning?
Yeah. My mom...
What was that about?
Well, just a big fear.
Like like not a movie. It's a fear you had.
Yeah. Well, my mother dropped me off the boat accidentally when I was a baby. She dropped me into the water. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it. And then one time I fell into the water.
Dropped you in the water like
from the boat.
Accident?
She was holding me, and she dropped me in the water.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was like not even. I think I was a month old. Unfortunately, they're not here to to qualify these things anymore. But my mother would remember that. And then one time I fell in the water without my parents noticing, and then they had to pick me out. My father picked me out like by a shoe, like my foot or something. So I've had a fear of water, fear of a bizarre fear, which I've never been able to figure out, and nobody can help me with it, is I hate, because we live in the Canadian Shield, this is a bizarre fear. Because we live in the Canadian Shield, we have a lot of beautiful rocks up north where our cottage country is. And one of the things that scares me is if you're in a boat and you go through a narrows where you can see all the creepy rocks under the water, I can't deal with it.
Oh, really? You mean like through the water you see rocks below, and that's freaky? Why?
I don't know.
Why does that scare you?
I don't know.
Are you afraid the rocks are going to hit the bottom of the boat?
I don't know. But I just can't. There's like, for example, my parents' cottage, there was a shoal off their bay, which was kind of like a double drop. And I would always look the other way when the boat went by and things. When we went by it, I hated it. I still wouldn't be able to do it. Surprisingly enough, on Georgian Bay, I'm okay with it because there's so much of it, and I'm not driving the boat.
Are you afraid of bridges?
Not as much as I used to be.
Like walking over bridges?
I was. I mean, I went to San Francisco in 1996. I didn't get over the Golden Gate Bridge till 2004. I had several failed attempts at the first pylon. I just said, that's it, I'm out of here.
I remember as a kid somebody telling me that they saw a horror movie where a woman is swimming in a pool and somebody pushes some button that makes the cover go over the pool and traps the person inside and they drown. And I wondered always, what was that movie? And then I stumbled across it.
What is it? I was trying to...
I don't know, I can't remember, but I stumbled across it on some sort of a late night talk show or... not talk show, sorry, late night television where you're flipping channels, and there it was. It was weird. That's creeped me out. I always thought, I kept looking at pools to see if they had like things that maybe could come out and cover it over. And
but you wouldn't drown because it's on top of the water.
I think it's glass. This was like a glass thing that went right across the top of the water so that you'd be submerged because of the cover.
It sounds like James Bond.
It does have a little bit of a James Bond sound. Maybe it is. Maybe one of our listeners can let us know.
The other thing, speaking of fear and not child fear, but I'll give you a good one, and it has to do with you. I mean, the first time I visited you in Japan, you had still not had the family there. You were just by yourself in a beautiful hotel. And I went out somewhere, God knows, by myself. And then you were home that evening. And when I came home, you opened the door and you were so flipped out. I've never seen you as flipped out as this. And I thought something immediately was like, oh my God, like my partner is dead, or he just wants to tell me. And he's just like, I just saw something on TV, Ed. Oh. And I cannot get it out of my mind. I'm completely flipped out by it. And I'm like, well, okay, big deal. What is it? And it's like Black Mirror. So we watched the episode. Yeah. Again that night. We watched it together. Right. And I thought, it was pretty scary.
Yeah, that was the episode, just to let people know what we're talking about. Yeah. The episode, I don't remember the title. I don't remember what season it was.
Shut Up and Dance.
Is it called Shut Up and Dance?
Yeah.
Oh. So the premise was that it was a guy who had been on his computer. Actually, I don't want to spoil it for people.
You can't spoil it, yeah.
So anyway, it freaked me out.
It's well crafted. And it's got really good actors.
And it was only the second time of watching it with you that I got it at the end. What actually happened?
I didn't get it the first time.
Yeah,
I had to be told.
Yeah,
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You have to. Mark didn't get it. You have to be told if you can't listen to the final thing that comes through the phone.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, that was a scary moment. But then, like, I've watched other Black Mirror stuff, and Alone, and I'm like, oh, some of them are good, and some of them are like, oh, whatever.
I want to talk about something else. I don't think you believe what this is, but I want to ask you, man smell?
Oh, yeah, man smell.
So man smell is...
I probably have it right now because I haven't showered yet.
Well, see, this is the thing. And I'm pretty sure it's not just me that has noticed this sort of thing. But have you ever smelt that smell? Like if you go into like a guy's apartment and maybe around his clothes there's laundry.
Yeah.
There's this sort of oily smell.
Yeah, it can be, yeah.
Yeah, it's like man smell.
I had my apartment pretty much shut up because I was away for a couple of days, and a neighbor let Clark in, and he claimed my home had man smell.
It did have a stench of definitely garbage that needed to be taken out.
Garbage to be taken out was what it was, because
But then there was man smell was an additional smell.
Not in the bedroom, because I sprayed the Febreze.
So yesterday, okay, hold on.
When you got into the bed, did you smell anything?
Just let me explain to the listeners what's going on. So you kindly allowed me to bring my luggage here yesterday, and put it into your apartment while I went out and met up with some people in the city. And your neighbor let me in, and when I came in, I noticed a smell of. It was definitely a garbage. Like everyone's done this. They have that garbage that's been sitting in there under the sink for.
I also have a cat, and the cat litter can sometimes smell. But by the way, I just got to interrupt this thing. I'm sorry. While I'm on that cat thing, if you're a cat owner. Hi, the best litter, and I'm sure you can get it delivered all over the world, is called prettylitter.com. Oh my God.
Maybe they'll be our first sponsor.
They should do something because they tell everybody about this. So it's
Pretty
this new
Litter?
Prettylitter, one word.com.
What kind of like is it stones or
what it is, it's like it's like it's a natural thing.
Does it clump?
It does not clump.
Okay.
There's no smell. Like when the cat takes a crap, of course you got to scoop it out. Mm-hmm. But when they pee, it gets sucked down. Sorry, when they pee, it gets sucked down into these like coals at the bottom, which is the same thing.
This is this stuff or traditional cat litter?
Pretty litter.
Okay.
And then once a month, you clean it, you dump it, and they mail you another one. Oh. So no more carrying a 40-pound bag of litter home from the from the Quickie Mart, it's great, and I love it. And the other thing it does, which is really interesting, it has 4 colors that it can turn. It can turn really deep yellow, which means high alkaline. Yeah. Blue, which is like you got to take your cat to the vet because of alkaline, or red, and red is blood. Oh. And it'll show you that. So it can tell you if your pet, it just turns, the litter turns that color. It gets it from its
That's really cool.
pee. Yeah, and it's cheaper than buying regular litter. And I live in a small place with one cat, but she pees a lot, and because she likes to drink water.
What were we talking about before you brought up the cat?
I had to interrupt it.
Man smell.
So because there's also cat smell.
Yeah, but I didn't notice that. The 2 distinct smells was garbage.
Yes.
And then man smell.
Yes.
We're going over to look at your house to look at what the tenants said there were bed bugs.
Well, they were like, just so people know who are not Torontonians, bed bugs in Toronto is a big problem.
Oh, I thought it was all taken care of now.
Well, like what?
Like it used to be, like 10 years ago. It was a huge issue.
No. This city's got a big problem, and it's primarily in low rent housing. Mm-hmm. Bed bugs have nothing to do with people being dirty. By the way, they have absolutely nothing to do.
Despite the fact low rental housing, you say it's
seems
prevalent
to have, but it doesn't mean those people are dirty.
That's true.
Fair enough. I'm just basically saying it's been a problem. It's been a problem in this building, for example. I had them about 5-6 years ago.
Really?
You don't want to go
totally like fumigate the whole place.
Oh, it's awful. And there's 2 different ways of doing it. My friend Patrick and his first wife, they had them, but they went the whole natural path route, or whatever you want to call it now, which is just heat. and that's very efficient. But now they don't use
like
heat.
how much heat?
Oh, it's very. They close your whole place up, and they put these units in your place, and then they increase the temperature to your place like 250 degrees or something.
Doesn't damage things?
It can. They
Like
have certain things you got to
plants
take out. Oh yeah, you got to take out all that stuff out.
What about
But
electronics?
Then, yeah, but they don't do that anymore. They just do chemical, and so yeah, my tenants about
Much more healthy, just spraying chemicals.
Well, no kidding. They have a young child, but you got to be out of the house. You got to pack the whole thing.
I
up.
believe it.
And
it's a very serious issue.
It's a very serious issue, and it wasn't even determined by the guy that they had it. He just said it's probably best just to do this for, like, preventative, and then of course naturally here give me a bill for $1,000. Bed bugs are extremely expensive.
Thanks for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Is there anything else you want to ask me?
I don't think so. We could always do another episode if you want.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
You live in Japan now.
Yes.
Culture shock. Your 2 children are being raised basically in an American school in Japan.
Yes.
However, do you think this is the smartest thing you've ever done for your children?
Well, it's an amazing opportunity that they get.
That's right.
This whole experience of the education, of the culture, everything, the friends that they have, the friends that we have.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I agree.
I will say this, though. Looking at it from the outside in can sometimes look like it's all roses and rock
like
candy.
as a tourist, sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, but we keep in touch pretty much like by Facebook a lot. And, you've always told me when things come up and I'm like, some of them are cultural issues. Some of them are just, but generally when I first heard that you were taking your 2 kids to Japan for potentially 2 years, which has turned into 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I was of 2 minds, but then the one thing that stuck in my craw was basically the opportunity for these 2 kids. Like everybody, like the parents and blah, blah, blah. And I even remember saying to you, and Netta, who gives a shit about them? If they want, they can come and visit just like me. This is for your children and also for Clark's professional life. And, I just think it's amazing. Like,
it's great. It's just that it can look from the outside. Like if you visit Japan and you're there for 10 days and all the cool charms of Japan, then you think, oh, wow, imagine living here. It could be like this every day. I have found on this trip, there's a lot of things I miss about Canada.
Yeah.
Like the ability to go to a baseball field and take your son and practice there. And I think some of this is that it's a big city, Tokyo, but almost every like park, baseball field, it's like part of a school, or it's something that's locked up every day, and you can't just go on it and take your kid and throw the ball around. So
what about that large fan that you have? Do you take that around?
Large fan?
Yeah. Well, you have that fan. I've seen you use it.
A handheld fan?
Yes.
No.
And you fan yourself.
That's not true.
I have one.
All right.
Actually, can I say one more thing about Japan?
No.
You can cut this all out, but...
No, I'm not going to cut it out.
Okay. Well, one of the things about Japan, which is amazing, if you have a chance to go, and depends on what you like. Well, it doesn't matter what you like. They've got it. And they do it better, especially food. Like, it's the best Italian and French food you will ever have on the planet. And even the Parisians and the Italians will tell you the Japanese do it better.
Yeah, they
do everything better.
They do take other things like food or cuisine, and they almost do notch it up one better than the original.
Not one notch. It's much more than that. And the second thing the Japanese do really, really well is gardens. And I'm a gardener, as most people may know or may not know about me. And unfortunately, I'm an urban gardener because I live in a condo, but I have a roof and I have a deck, which is great. So I cram, but some of the gardens and the plants and the growing, like bonsai that I saw, I just couldn't believe it. Could not believe. And the other thing are their museums, and they take good care of their public parks. Yeah, so I miss it. Can't wait to go back. And my partner's been twice. He's taking a year off.
Yeah, from Japan.
Right. But he's going to Paris.
Very nice.
Yeah, because we've got friends in Paris, Japan. It's nice to go where people are because, let's face it, New York.
Okay, we gotta end because we got errands to run and stuff to do.
I'm making dinner tonight.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody of our email address for We Talked About This. It's wetalkedabouttthis99@gmail.com.
Okay.
Our website is www.wetalkedaboutthis.net.
Yeah.
And we're also on Twitter @WeTalkedPodcast. So
Well, I like the we talk. That's actually something from...
I wasn't telling you this. I was telling the listeners.
Oh, no, but I like I like it. Unfortunately, Simon is indisposed today, so I'm sitting in.
Yes. I think you made a fine substitute.
You may... Thank you. I think you may hear
We'll
from
see
me
what the listeners think.
And if you want to find me, people, and just share your comments,
please,
you're certainly welcome. I'm a public figure, so I'm easy to Google.
But you're not famous.
I'm not famous. I work for the Toronto Public Library, and you can find me there, or you can find me at Edward Kirk, Karek on Facebook.
Yeah.
If you want to send me a message, especially.
Can you repeat that again?
Like Edward.
Yeah.
Karek.
On Facebook.
On Facebook.
And what's your email if people want to email you?
ekarek@simpatico.ca.
ekarek@simpatico.ca. SYMPATICO. CA. Wait, simpatico.ca.
Yes, correct.
ekarek. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Okay.
So why are your lips still flapping?
All right, get out of here. You're done.